everyone, Dr. Ryan Carboneau here with Testudo Addiction Recovery. It has been way too long since I made a video. The summer I think just got away from me, and just as an organization we've been considering a bunch of different things, and so I will do another video at some other time to tell you about that. One of the things, or really the main thing, as you can see behind me, we're in a fairly beautiful, tranquil area. There's a pond behind me. It's just, I could sit here and just do some deep breathing or yoga and it would be tremendous. So the thing that I wanted to talk about today is this idea of self-care. So specifically for addicts, but really everyone, self-care is hugely important. And unfortunately, when we're growing up, many of our parents, and by no fault of their own, many of our parents don't do a fantastic job of teaching us about ourselves, teaching us about who we are, about kind of our core love languages, about how we relate to other people. And so it's challenging when we move into adulthood from our teenage years. This idea of figuring out really who we are, figuring out even what we like, what we don't like, and more importantly, figuring out what we need as a human being. Every one of us has needs, and a lot of us come from a place of having those needs not being met or minimized, or even worse, shamed when we're little. And so that's part of this process, is being able to figure out along the way really what we need, especially within the context of relationships. And so I wanted to read a brief paragraph from a book that I actually posted a while back. It's called Unwanted by Jay Stringer, and it's an excellent book. It talks about specifically sexual brokenness, which is a huge topic. Many of my clients struggle with sexual addiction, pornography use, masturbation, that kind of thing. And so there was a paragraph in here that I felt was very appropriate along the idea, or along the terms of self-care. So he starts out, he says, addicts know that indulging in their unwanted sexual behavior will result in self-contempt every time. Jay says, in my view, our self-contempt is not a byproduct of unwanted sexual behavior. It is the very aim of it. Through this lens, unwanted sexual behavior is not primarily an attempt to remedy or self-soothe the pain of a wounded child. It is attempting to reenact the formative stories of trauma, abuse, and shame that convinced us that we were unwanted to begin with. In other words, we are not addicted primarily to sex or even a disordered intimacy. Instead, we are bonded to feelings of shame and judgment. And that's a pretty heavy paragraph to read through. And if you consider that in any of us struggling with addiction, that the addictive behavior, whether it be sexual or otherwise, that behavior has to do a lot with just this self-contempt that we feel, this self-hatred, this I'm not enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not strong enough, I'm not worthy of love and affection that I so desperately need from other people. And so that's kind of where the idea of self-care comes in. If we had those parents who helped us learn about ourselves, helped us process emotions, helped us figure out who we are and what we need from relationships, we probably came into adulthood with a much better ability to take care of ourselves. But for those who moved into addiction, who struggle with alcohol, who struggle with sex addiction, gambling, whatever your addiction is, there is this idea of self-contempt and a lack of self-care for ourselves that plays a huge role in this. So self-care is hugely important for the addict especially, to be able to figure out, hey, these are things that I love to do. These are things that actually breathe life into me, that give my life meaning, that give my life purpose, that pour into me so that I can then also pour into other people. And so it's so important, especially if you're watching this and if you're an addict, it's so important for you to be able to create a plan and start doing those things one day at a time. Start planning times to set aside for yourself, to go sit by a lake or a pond if that's something that's important to you. Time to go to yoga maybe, or go to the gym to exercise, to maybe start a diet program to eat better, to figure out ways that emotionally that help you just feel better. And again, feeling better isn't always the aim. My kind of mantra that I tell all of my clients is my main goal is to help you feel comfortable while you're feeling uncomfortable. So I'm not saying that happiness and feeling better is always the main goal, but taking care of yourself, taking better care of yourself, is always a better thing that we can do, especially for an addict. So if you know of anyone struggling with this, if you know of anyone who has been kind of perpetuating bad behaviors and can't stop those, send them this video, send them the link to it, talk to them about Testudo Addiction Recovery and the services that we offer. We would love to be able to continue our work here in Northern Virginia. Again, I will follow up this video with more about how you specifically can get involved in what we're doing, and I would love to hear some feedback. Also, please send in your questions. I would love to be able to answer questions that any of you have about addiction in particular. If you're struggling with it, or if you know a friend who is also struggling, send your questions so that I can address those here as well. Thanks for watching.